Hi, I'm Dennis Svoboda, and I'm sitting here this morning with Steve Klingel, and we're here to talk about author Jack Plotnick's new book, Stolen Revenge. Jack has taken a novel approach to this book, and that's why we're here this morning, because we're characters in the book. We've known Jack since we were kids, went to school with him, played sports with him, graduated high school with him, went to college with him, and now in our retirement, Jack has decided to become a writer, and this is his second book. And the reason this is a novel approach is because he's taken friends from our lives that we grew up with and placed them as characters in the books with different I would say probably the same backgrounds we had, but putting them in character roles. And he's also taken the town of Edwardsville, where we all grew up, and back in the 60s and 70s, and he's taken the locations, the businesses in the town, and he's brought them forward to the year 2022, and as if they're still there, and he's incorporated those old businesses and those old locations into the book. As I said, Jack has taken a novel approach to writing this book by incorporating his friends, his lifetime friends, as characters in the book. I'm in there. I'm a logistics expert and in charge of the construction of the safe house. Dale Keller is the construction company owner, and his wife Karen. They're involved in the construction of the safe house. Greg Blackard Black is a sniper, and he has duties to keep the safe house safe. Trey Mudge is in there. He's a specialist in tech. He's in charge of all of the cameras and anything related to technology. Trey's in charge of that. And many others. I'll just name the names. I won't describe what they do, but Bob Shea, Roy Sam Burton, Peggy Bohart, Gene Ace Magruder, Bob Myers, Gene Harrison, Dan Hamlis, Tad Armstrong, Pete Vardy, Kay Erickson James, Donnie Takis, Ed Criggy, Suzanne Shaw Nevins, Mike Soper, and I'm sure I've missed many. There are too many to mention, but we're all in there. And as I said before, I'm here with Steve Klingel, and Steve is Captain Klingel in the book, and he's the guy in charge of feeding everybody during the construction, and I'll let him talk about how that came about.
Well, feeding and a little bit of logistics as well. I think you and I in the book have some contact on some things, and but yeah, I was just always involved in barbecuing and having a good time, and I believe that the character and I are very close. Captain Klingel and I can really relate. I can relate to that role because you see, Captain Klingel likes to have a little bit of authority, but he doesn't want to be too much an authority. He's of the opinion that you've heard the saying, "It's good to be king." Captain Klingel thinks it's better to be prince because you have all the power without any responsibility. And he's probably, I would say, if you looked at the character, he's probably got busted down a few times. He's probably one time maybe had a higher rank and said, you know what, this ain't working, and he either voluntarily went down into another branch or got put down there by somebody else. But anyway, yeah, my role is feeding everyone and cooking my famous pork steaks and my favorite barbecue sauce, homemade version of barbecue sauce. It's pretty much a base sauce. Make it one time and you can add to it what you like. If you like a little more garlic, a little more salt, there you go, you can do that. But anyway, it's something that I'm proud of in person and I'm proud of in the book. And as far as the book goes, there's many things that you'll find in the book, establishments that are still there to this day. Pork steaks are native to the St. Louis area. Until about 5 or 10 years ago, I would say, most people didn't know outside of this area what a pork steak was. They're getting more popular, getting more prevalent. But I took great pride in doing that with had a good teacher. My dad was a great grill master and taught me well on how to do it. And Another place that's in the book, the Locker Plant, went by Edwardsville Frozen Foods, I think, but we all refer to it as the Locker Plant. I like my character in the book. There's one area where he's got to run an errand to throw the terrorists off of the trail and make them waste a bunch of time. And so what he does, without saying, giving you too much of the plot, is it's a very mischievous thing to do. And it involves Weber Funeral Home. Yeah, my character in the book, Captain Klingel, he has a background in cooking. His folks ran Northside Root Beer Stand in Edwardsville, which is still there to this day. It's as you're leaving town at the bottom of the hill. And all of these places are in the book. And I don't want to give it away, what's going on in some of them. The Idle Pool Hall has a big part in it. A major part for this town happens in there. And what's also interesting is there's a lot of people who are our friends who don't live in the book. They get whacked. Gosh, we can't forget the old pavilion at the American Legion up there, the fire trap. We had lots of dances that we sponsored up there and played in the Deceptions and some other bands with Jeff Bryan and some other people who are passed on by now.
The Wildy Theater. I don't want to give it away either, but there's a lot of action toward the end of the book in the Wildy Theater, and that was the place we all went as kids to see movies. Always a double bill. You don't see that anymore. 2 movies.
Where we had our first dates.
Where we had our first dates, many of us, and but they always had a double bill with a cartoon in between. Cost of entrance was 25 cents, and you could get a box of popcorn for a dime. So think about that. But Wildy's still there, and it's a very important part of the book toward the end. Vanzo's Tavern, Vanzo's Tap Room as it was called, run by Jim Vanzo and his family.
Mine Run University.
It was the home of Mine Run University, a fictitious university for regular patrons that were there all the time. And
I don't know how fictitious it was.
Well, you could buy a membership. My parents had memberships, and they had the sweatshirts and all the paraphernalia that went with it. But Vanzo's takes an important role in the book. And I'm looking through my little list here. I see the meat locker that Steve referred to, which was next door to the Wildy. It's important because one of our classmates and one of the characters I didn't mention earlier, Jim Ray Jumper, he has a very important role in the end of the book, and he's on top of the meat locker doing his thing. The shale pit is mentioned. Of course, that was important to all of us kids when we were younger, because it was a rock quarry that had hit a spring underneath, and it got flooded, and they couldn't produce any more rock out of there, any more stone. So it just sat, and for generations, kids would go there swimming in the nice, clean, cold water of the shale pit. And as a matter of fact, my senior year at the high school, we had an afternoon PE class, and our coach, our PE teacher, who will remain unnamed at this point, he turned his head and let us run through the woods down to the shale pit and swim during PE class, if you can imagine. It was a 5-minute run through the woods. The Idle Hour, which was our famous pool hall, which was usually always just guys would go in, and girls just didn't come in. Every scheme, every plan, every joke that you could imagine was told and was formed there in the Idle Hour. And we played cards and we played pool, of course. I'm looking.
So we learned the proper way to drink a Coke and have peanuts.
Yeah.
You had to open the Coca-Cola bottle and put the peanuts in it.
And Ace Magruder, who was mentioned in the book, he worked in there at the front desk when you walked in. And I'll just go through the list of other places or locations that come to mind: the Donut Shop, the Idle Hour Recreation Center, the pool hall, the Wildy Theater, Vanzo's Tap Room, Baldwin's Drugstore, the 3 Mile House, which sits north of town, out toward where the safe house was being built, Dog and Suds, which was another type of drive-in restaurant where you sat in your car and you ate your food. it was on the other end of town, so they were direct competition with Steve's family. The shale pit I mentioned, the water tower, and of course, small towns USA have a water tower that get painted by the kids with their graduation year usually, and some other type of John loves Mary type of stuff. And our water tower, we had 2 or 3 of them. And our water tower, we regularly climbed it and painted something up there. And as a matter of fact, I and a couple other characters that are not friends that are not in the book, they'll remain unnamed. We camped out there one night, slept up there. The American Legion, which Steve mentioned, that's important. There's some action there. But Steve's band and other bands played. And as kids, we went there for dances regularly. That was the place to go, to a dance for the local bands. Rusty's, a restaurant owned, in recent years, owned by Dale Keller and his wife and Dale's brother. Now no longer in business. Dale sold out. The Northside River Stand, Spanky's, which was a bar was a rival of Van's. That was on Main Street, and the Food Locker. And there are other places that I just can't remember that are in the book that all take a role in the development of the plot. One thing I found a very interesting literary tip or technique that Jack used in the book, and there are many, but this one I thought was really clever. Toward the end of the book, when Greg Blackard Black is on the lookout for the enemy out near the safe house, he describes the evening. It's late at night, and there is a sliver of moon. And he goes on to describe, and we don't know, as a reader, we don't know at that point what's going to happen, if he's going to find one of these terrorists or not. But in Islam, the symbol of Islam is the crescent moon. So when he mentioned the sliver of a moon, I thought he's going to find this guy very soon. It is a novel book. If you're from the area, you got to pick it up and read about yourself and about your friends. If you're not from the area and you don't know these characters, it is still a great book to read because it's full of action. It's a thriller,
and you can see what you're missing, and what you missed,
and you can see what you missed. And I'll just give you a little bit of background on the plot itself. It's about Middle Eastern terrorism. It's about how Middle Eastern terrorism comes to the United States after 9/11. And how it arrives in Edwardsville, and I'm not going to give you the end result of what happens here. I hope you go out and buy the book. If not, if you don't buy the hard copy, there's also Amazon sells the digital copy.